All right, we're in the module about finding your truth. And what does that mean after grief? I have lost 3 children, as you know, and it has changed throughout the years of trying to heal from each one of those tragic losses. And when I say finding your truth, it's truly about digging deep. It started for me as a spiritual conflict. I truly believe that God loved me, protect me, was going to protect my children. If I did good, then good things would happen to me. And so that was huge in grieving the loss of my children because he didn't protect me. And this isn't about my belief system. It is about finding your truth. And any time you've gone through tragic loss, you're going to really struggle with what is truth. And sometimes I feel in a very good place. I feel connected to my children who have passed. I feel blessed to have had a relationship with them. And then sometimes I'm laying in bed depressed. So this is not easy, but it is a process that if you can go through and find your truth, you can hold on to that for your strength. So for me, there was a lot of things in my life that were limiting beliefs from a spiritual perspective. And when I say finding your truth, you have to look outside of yourself and what you believe eternally, because your loved one's no longer in this physical plane that we are in. And so it's about examining your limiting beliefs. I can tell you that I was not raised to believe in God, but I did accept God at the age of 19. And I was kind of this very zealot believer. And as I lost children and then lost another child and then another child, I really had to struggle with that. And I was taught that there is absolute truth. And maybe there is absolute truth, but I don't think humans that are teaching that absolute truth have knowledge of that. And that evidenced by there are so many people who believe that they are teaching absolute truth, right? So not everyone can be correct if absolute truth means what we think it means, right? And so, we could go in this philosophical question circle over and over again, but that's not what healing is about. Healing is about going inward and outward and finding your truth. I can tell you, losing Maya in 2021 really was the final straw, if you can say that. Like everybody can have a breaking point. And I thought I was doing okay with Reggie. And Reggie's death, he had a traumatic life. Like he was in and out of the hospital. We were constantly scared of his death. And when he passed, there was a little bit of a relief that he wasn't suffering anymore. But Maya was not suffering. And so since her death, the speed of my growth is exhausting. And so this journey that you're on of intense grief is not an easy one and often feels exhausting, but you can do it. So what is truth? I don't have an answer for you. You have to dig deep and find it yourself for you, because when you do it yourself, it is really real. If I'm just teaching you what is truth, then that's my truth. When I was going through this process, and I continue to go through this process, I wonder, can I trust my feelings? And Sometimes, yes, but it doesn't matter. They're my feelings. I have to acknowledge them, process them, go through them, and come out on the other side of them, having managed, controlled, or have some sort of understanding. Because we can often get in that rut of depression, of just feeling like there's, what's the point? So if you need professional help, please get that. I have seen a couple counselors once or twice, not specifically, more for the grief documentary than for my personal growth, because I feel like I am very insightful and I'm working on myself and I have a lot of the knowledge of a counselor. But it is helpful to have someone else to process these things with. And I actually go to an energy practitioner, and it feels like therapy to me because they can see and feel things in my body that I would not have kind of come to light. And one of the things that came out about a month ago was I've lost everything that I've ever wanted. You know, when I was young, I wanted a man to love me, and I wanted to get married and live happily ever after. And I wanted to have children, and I wanted to have a big family. And so I adopted children, and I had 2 children, 7 children, and a loving husband. And now those things have been taken away from me. And my husband is currently on hospice. I have lost both of my biological children and one of my adopted children. Like, everything I ever wanted is gone. So what am I? What do I believe? And in the last module I talked about, depression and, even getting to the point of feeling suicidal. And I'm not at that place. And if you're ever at that place, please, we talked about this last time, it doesn't have to be an action. But as we brought that to the surface, I began to be able to see some of my truth. And yes, that was true. And I did get everything that I wanted, even though it wasn't forever in this lifetime. But can I trust my feelings? When I adopted the 3-child sibling group, which Johnny was a part of, they had a lot of trauma and neglect prior to. And so I truly believed that I was going to provide this safe and loving environment. And I wasn't able to keep them safe. I truly believed when Reggie was diagnosed with DRPLA that I was going to find treatment for him and that he was going to live. That didn't happen. I believed that Maya did not have the same intensity of DRPLA that Reggie had, and that she was going to live a really long time, just need a little bit of extra help. That was not true. I believed that God was going to protect me and love me and take care of my children, and that didn't happen. So what is truth? Can I trust the way I feel about that? These next choice opportunities that you're going to go through are really just things to kind of open your eyes to finding your own truth. You have to bring that to consciousness. If you're anything like me, you have a lot to unpack. It's not just the grief. So when you're going through, the first one in this module is 24, which is about this acronym RELAX. And it's a way to meditate. And whether you believe in meditation, prayer, it's an action of learning to listen to things outside of yourself. And so it's about bringing it to consciousness. So I want you to think of something that you want to pray, ask for, meditate on. And oftentimes we ask for something to be done. And I challenge you to ask for an answer. So Like, for example, don't say, please take my pain away. Say something like, what can I do to lessen my pain? Right? See the difference there? So the R stands for recognize the question or the concept that you want to bring to consciousness. And then elevate that outside of yourself. Okay, so I believe in a God, and that's what I do. But it's source, universe. There is something outside of ourselves, and you're trying to elevate that to this entity for an answer, and then listen. We don't take enough time to listen. Stop and listen to the answer. So instead of, oh, please take my pain away, please take my pain away, what can I do to lessen my pain? And then listen for the answer. And you will receive something. And allow yourself to receive something. And then that last thing is to actually execute it. Do what came to you. And really judge, how did that help what I was going through or what I asked? When I got to this stage in my healing, I was really struggling with, what is my voice? I've lost my voice. I don't know what I believe. I don't know what truth is anymore. So I can't teach truth because I don't know what it is anymore. And one of the things that I did in trying to find my truth is I did what I call a weeping walk. And you can watch the weeping walk on my grief documentary. But it is about going to places that are so significant to the relationship that you lost. So for me, I went back to where I raised my kids. I went to the school that they went to. I went to swimming with the dolphins where I took them. I went to different people's homes that we spent time with. And I just made a trip out of grieving, right? This whole concept of healing from grief is about controlled grief, taking the time, bringing yourself to those places so that you can feel that pain. I'll say it over and over again. You have to feel the pain. And a weeping walk is a way to feel the pain, to bring those things to the surface and really try to figure out, what is my truth? The next one has to do with, it's titled Grief Styles, but it really has to do with reconnecting to people, especially family. For me, it was family connection. I was going through such a painful grief for myself. I forgot that my mom and dad lost their grandkids. My sister lost their niece or nephew. I'm not the only one grieving. And everyone was, surrounded around me and trying to help me grieve. But one of the things that I did is I sat around with all my family and we told stories. And as they told stories of Reggie and Maya, I realized how much grief and pain they were going through as well. And so this Grief Styles is really just about, you are not the only one hurting. And I know mothers feel like our pain is not comparable. And that's not what I'm saying, that we compare. But everyone has a different way of grieving, and we need to honor and respect that. There's another lesson that talks about, if you're having trouble grieving with someone, especially a spouse or someone you're close to, find the ways that your relationship was different, your grief is different, but also find ways that it is the same so that you can take some time to grieve together. Now there's a practical activity in here. And a lot of people ask me, or I see online questions like, what do I do with their stuff? What is the right thing? People tell me I should throw it away. People tell me, to keep it all. And, when people give you advice, Take it with a grain of salt. They're only trying to help. What you need to figure out is what you want to do with it. And it can be in layers, right? And I can tell you, when Johnny died, it was such a shock. I tried to convince myself, because he was adopted, he had only been with us a year, that I could handle this, right? And I had this huge yard sale. And normally yard sales in my neighborhood do really well. I put everything out and not one person came to that garage sale. So I wasn't supposed to get rid of all that stuff. With Reggie, it was kind of sad because by the time Reggie passed away, he was very sick. We had, thrown away a lot of his toys because we had moved to Colorado. We had some Spider-Man things, but he didn't have a lot of things to keep. And unlike Maya, who had tons of toys and a million stuffed animals, I have a lot of her stuff and will cherish that forever. So, but, you can go through kind of the immediate things like, oh, okay, I'm going to get rid of this. And then maybe once a year, go through their stuff and decide, is there anything else that I want to get rid of this year? Reconnecting after loss is partly your responsibility. And I know that it's painful, and so many people, especially who have lost a child, just feel like they cannot reconnect with their friends who have children, that, something weird happened, someone said something. You have to understand that most people are trying their best to be a help to you. You're living their worst nightmare and they don't know what to do. And so give them grace. The next worksheet is about working through what that means for the important relationships in your life. The next one has to do with injustice and working through those injustices. This is not fair. Having deeply lost a loved one, it's often not fair. There's something around that makes you angry. And this is about choosing love over anger. Remember, we're working through grief to cherish that relationship. So working through those injustices in the process of finding your truth. Yes, something horrible has happened to you and it is not fair, but we can choose love. This next worksheet is one of my favorite and it might actually take you a lot of time, and I've kind of redone mine over and over, but it is about finding a meaningful relationship statement. This person that you've lost meant the world to you. And that is a gift. And so it's about turning that pain into a gift. Remember, I've talked about this before, that grief is about properly grieving is feeling that pain, the controlled grief. That's what you're doing here. But ultimately cherishing that relationship. And so what was the purpose of this person's life? And even though you tragically lost them, what was so meaningful about your relationship? The next one is, again, continuing that cherish the relationship, but acknowledging that your heart is broken. But let's put that heart back together, take those broken pieces and write precious memories and then put it back together, right? There's a Japanese art that takes a broken vase and puts it back together, but bonds it with gold. Yes, it will never be the same. Your heart will never be the same. That is your truth. And that is okay. That needs to be okay. focusing, the next one talks about values, right? And I can tell you, one of my values has always been family. And I feel like I've lost my entire family. So how, if I were to focus on values, how would that be helpful? Well, go through here and check all of your values. And yes, there are some that are impacted by your grief. But I have checked a lot of others that I can focus on. So it's about finding some positive values that you can focus on that aren't a trigger for your grief, right? For me, family, it triggers my grief. And this last one is anywhere in this process, you could feel like it's just too much. But it is a lifetime journey. Intense grief, 10 years from now, I will still miss my children. But I refuse to be depressed. I am committed to finding purpose and joy in my life. And so that's my truth. And I encourage you to find your truth. And it's okay when you have those overwhelming days, give grace to yourself and just know that this is a lifetime journey. And I will see you in the last module, which is about speaking your truth.